Hey, what's going on? This is Doc Brown, and you're seeing me here backstage at my gig in Liverpool. They haven't got any drinks for me yet, though, so like I'm not particularly happy about that. But I am particularly happy about representing here for Vision for Dreams TV. You know, these guys are doing a lot of amazing work. Make sure you subscribe, get down. Hopefully they'll be putting something on the screen right now, like that. But if they haven't, I'm gonna look stupid.
Vision for Dreams TV here in the O2 Academy in Liverpool, backstage here with Doc Brown just before the show. So, Doc Brown, obviously you've come from quite an interesting background. So, at what point did you then recognize that rap and comedy were a good combination?
I think like every rapper knows. Excuse me. I think every rapper knows kind of instinctively that funny works, you know, or humorous works. If you look at some of the best rappers of all time, like Biggie or Big L or Big Pun or, you know, Jay-Z, they've always had elements of humor or just like smart, witty comments. Or if you look at rap battling, like the essence of MCing, that's always had something comic or something humorous at its heart. So, but no, I didn't really think about it as an option until I was working at the BBC and someone suggested I try doing stand-up. And then when I tried it for the first time, I thought, obviously, I'm going to talk about the world I'm from, which is the world of rap. But then you can't talk about being from the world of rap and saying you used to be a rapper without proving it.
So you kind of mentioned some of the rappers that influence you and that you sort of probably look to at the moment. What about the comedy heroes then?
Yeah, I mean, I was more into sitcoms as a kid than stand-up, you know. Like, I never really watched stand-up until I started doing it. Yeah. So my heroes were more from like TV. People like Ronnie Barker. Like I used to love Porridge, and like Chris Barry on Red Dwarf. That stuff when I was a kid, that just blew me away. And then like when I was a teenager, probably more like Chris Morris and the Day to Day and Brass Eye, and yeah, all that stuff that Armando Iannucci was involved in as a writer.
There's a lot of Britishness in there as well. So obviously you've got the ethnic background, but you're classically quite a British comic as well.
I think I'm very British. I talk about it in the show, you know, being proud to be British. I recognize my ethnic background, obviously, and that's a huge part of the show as well, and a huge part of me in my life, my personal life, and what I talk about on stage. I think it's all linked, but I think that's another thing that sort of is maybe an interesting angle, just seeing that combination. Like with me being mixed race as well, it's not just being a mixture of black and white, it's like being a mixture of an immigrant and British as well, do you know what I mean? That's two other cultural kind of clashes that have created the person that I am.
And the other thing that, recognizing that your sister, Sadie Smith, is a famed novelist, I was just thinking about the fact that growing up in your household, two wordsmiths, were there quite a few clashes in there, were there a clash of words in there? They're showing that both of you are quite clever with your lyrics.
It's funny you should ask that, actually, because I guess looking at it, that should be, I mean, that would be what you'd think, but me and my sister never clashed over anything. We had a very sort of, there was a lot of synergy between us. We grew up, we were quite close in age. We grew up kind of like twins. So she was always like amazing with words, with writing and reading. She was reading at a massively much higher level than any other kids her age. We always knew she wasn't normal. Like we knew she was some kind of child prodigy. That was guaranteed. And then she was already published by the time she was 15, and then she had like the famous deal with Penguin and that when she was 21. So it was like I always saw that, and I knew that I couldn't compete on that level, but at the same time I knew I had the talent. I just wasn't sure exactly what it was, but I knew it was to do with words. I always wanted to act or be on stage or something like that, but I never really followed it up, especially as a teenager, because it's just like, ooh, like doing theatre or whatever. It just, you feel like that's not a manly thing to do or whatever, you know. And I regret that now, because now I'm getting into it, you know. I regret not having the experience, but yeah, I think it was probably rap, really, like listening to it and then going to the clubs as a youngster and then eventually getting involved in battling and then doing open mics and PAs and putting on nights. That was like my medium for performing, and obviously performing stuff that I had written. What I didn't realize is that that's a transferable skill, you know, like you can put it into so many different things. You could, like, I could have ended up in your job, do you know what I mean? Like you can turn that, being able to, you know, control a crowd, or being able to speak in public, or looking comfortable on stage, and also speaking words that you've written. You could transfer that to anything, like newsreader, politician, spokesman for, you know, an organization. There's so many different things. So I think you can really see the sort of natural progression. But yeah, that's where it started.
In the end, what would you say is your inspirational message to all those young people out there then?
I think it's to focus on what you can do in the real world, because the virtual world is secondary. I know there's a lot of young rappers, photographers, singers, dancers, all sorts of performers and writers, creators, who, you know, they just think, well, I've got my Facebook page, I've got my artist page, I've got my YouTube page, I've got this page, I've got that page, so I'm good, you know? For me, that's all that stuff is secondary. The first thing is taking what you've got and getting it out there and seeing people's reactions. And I think that's scary for a lot of young people, but that's the game, you know? And the only way you really get people to believe in you is to look in the whites of their eyes and say, this is me and this is what I do, you know? So it's gonna take a big leap of confidence, but I would say that is the first thing. You feel like you've got something, you're telling everybody on your YouTube page you got something, prove it. Get out to something. It might be a local event, it might be a national event, at whatever level that you feel is right for your level of confidence. You know, whether it's a small school-based event or whether it's, you know, flipping X Factor. Yeah. Like whichever way you look at it, find something that suits you and just bite the bullet. Swallow your pride and get out there.